So I've been meaning to talk about this for a day or two. It's about how we talk about stuff, and how word choice and word usage is very important. This is about, well, lots of things it touches on, but it was all kind of inspired by Trump canceling $9 billion in funds to all these programs that save lives and prevent suffering around the world, and $1 billion that he canceled to NPR and public TV and stuff. Notice how I phrased that to put the emphasis on the important thing, and then I shifted to the NPR thing. Now, the reason I say that is because NPR's been reporting on this, but focusing on the NPR thing, focusing on cutting funds to the NPR stations, which is bad. And of course, their audience are people who listen to NPR. But that very idea, that the thing to do is appeal to the audience's personal self interest the most, when the NPR audience also cares about murdering millions of people around the world by canceling these programs. And the only program I heard that they salvaged was PEPFAR. They may have salvaged some other programs, but $9 billion in aid cuts. But all parties agree is going to murder people. It's going to kill lots of people, including people in America, as if it makes any difference. But killing people all over the world with these programs because Trump wants to kill those people. And we're not phrasing the conversation that way. If we were phrasing the conversation that way, why does Trump want to kill hundreds of Texans with a flood and hundreds of Christian school girls with a flood? Why does Trump want to kill these people, all these millions of people all around the world? Because he's a genocidal maniac, like his cohorts, Netanyahu and his master Putin. Like this is the essence of the problem, is we're not calling it what it is. And when NPR talks about it this way, they say, Trump is canceling, or the Republicans are canceling $9 billion in funds, but only $1 billion of that was for NPR, as if that's the important part. Or there's some other ways they were phrasing it, just, talking about, the cancellation of the funds to NPR and also canceling $8 billion in funds for the programs, kind of as an afterthought, or this is something else you might care about, but it's not the main thing to care about, intentionally murdering all these people. Now, the reason I thought I had to do something about this is they had a program the other day that was about a guy who wrote a song. And they introduced the program by saying, imagine forgetting the lyrics to your own song on stage. Okay, it's a relatable fear, at least. People can imagine that, whether they've had that experience or not. That gets your interest. And then he says, this guy making this song that we're about to have this story about was a survivor of the Columbine shooting. And when he was 12 years old, survived the Columbine shooting. And to me, that was analogous to the way they report on canceling all these funds. It's hurting NPR. Oh, it's also going to murder all these people, but that's a afterthought, or that's a detail of it, not the main point. And of course, it's not the main point that he was in the Columbine theater. The whole point is that he can write a song and define himself in other ways creatively, even against evil, fascist, terrible terrorist things. Can't let those things happening to you define you. It can be a great story, but the way they presented it, and the fact that they even had time to talk about this when we're still doing a genocide in Gaza and not stopping Putin's slower genocide in Ukraine or Trump's genocide here in America. We're not stopping these things, and one of the best ways we can stop them, one of the most nonviolent ways we can stop them, is just by spreading the information. So NPR could be playing a crucial role in that, and they're talking about anything else they're talking about is kind of a disservice to what they could be doing. But especially phrasing it that way, that, he forgot his lyrics, is kind of analogous to, we might lose funding and lose some NPR stations and stuff like that around the country, which is bad. But we're also going to murder all these people all over the world, which is really bad. And that's analogous to the theater shooter, the Aurora theater shooter. I'm sorry if I misspoke and called it something else before, but the Aurora theater shooter killing all these people. Like, we're being that. We're being the Aurora theater shooter on a global scale, killing millions of people by allowing Trump to continue. And we're talking about the cancellation of funds to PBS. We need to wake up our priorities. We need to speak clear. And thanks to Texas Paul, because I've watched his video talking about how he feels pride of us when he sees the accomplishments of immigrants. And it was a great video called From the Heart. And I thought, well, you know what? I need to go ahead and say this because this has been on my heart to say something about it. And even though I don't have it planned out to say it the most efficient and effective way, at least I'll get it out there and say it. We have to be careful about how we talk about stuff. and not let them say this. I was the most disappointed in NPR, our Colorado Public Radio contingent, CPR, for reporting on the possibility of opening up one of our defunct and abandoned prisons, private prisons in Colorado, as a concentration camp for Trump. And I was like, no. And talking about how that was a boon for the local economy. It's like, no, we need to let anybody know that you go work at that place, you'll be hunted down for the rest of your life, like we hunt down the Nazis of the German concentration camps. That is not a career move to make. And Colorado Public Radio deserves to get some calls and get some questions asked. Why would you ever support Trump's concentration camps? I understand you're trying to suck up to him to keep your funding, but you lose your soul for that. And you lose all respectability, and you're a Nazi sympathizer or a Trump Putineer sympathizer, which is even worse, by promoting Trump's genocides. Trump and Putin and Netanyahu's genocides. That goes across the board. We need to cut all this stuff out. And we can cut it all out with the right words. And people who you're allowed to see, you'll see my channels heavily suppressed, but people who you're allowed to see can just choose the right words. Like Piers Morgan started choosing the right words finally after his words were helping murder hundreds of thousands of innocent people and kids. So let's stop it. And thanks for watching. And yeah, go ahead and call public radio and tell them you're disappointed with their sucking up to the right, including promoting genocide and concentration camps and Nazism. That's not what we expect out of our NPR. It's not supposed to be Nazi public radio. It's supposed to be national public radio. So let's make it national for America again instead of for these Nazis. And let's do that. Let's make all these people American and human again instead of genocidal Nazis. Thanks. Or make them, not exist anymore. But whatever it takes to cut out all the Nazis from this planet. And we start with Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump. They're the top Nazis. Let's stop them. Thanks.